Proxying in Commander can sometimes be a fraught subject. While there are a lot of reasons people bring up to not like proxying, there is one reason, one card that is brought up more than any other. Fear of this card is the main argument many players have against proxying. And make no mistake, fear is absolutely the right word. Mana Crypt, or are there cards you shouldn't proxy? Mana Crypt has a strange history. The entire original run of the card was only available as a mail-in coupon for those who bought one of Magic's novels. The first time the card was ever reprinted was more than 10 years later, despite the card not being on the reserve list. Whether or not designers understood how powerful this card was at the time is debatable, as our understanding of the importance of resource advantage was still forming. It wouldn't even see major tournament play for years after release, before being banned and restricted in Eternal formats in 1999. With the benefit of hindsight, we now know very well just how powerful Crypt is. Playing one early accelerates you 2 full turns of mana ahead of your opponents, without costing any itself. Casting a 3 mana spell turn 1 often allows one to snowball into even more advantage and run away with a game. It also has a repeating damage trigger that requires the person with a Mana Crypt to stop the entire table for a second and draw attention to it, as they roll the dice to see if they take damage or not. This trigger, more than the power level of the card, is what I think makes people hate it. You cannot escape it or ignore it. It wants you to know it's there, and it will remind you turn after turn that your opponent has one and you don't. However, there are plenty of splashy cards that are impossible to forget. What makes Mana Crypt the lightning rod of controversy that it is? Well, the reason is very simple. Cost. For a long time, this card was a $300 luxury item. At time of writing, Mana Crypt is the cheapest it has ever been, costing around $90 after being reprinted multiple times in the last year. For the first time in a decade, the cardboard this card is printed on is no longer worth its weight in 24-karat gold. What makes people scared of Mana Crypt is not what it does, but what it reveals. Mana Crypt's very existence begs the question of what you are sitting down at a Commander table to do. For those in the competitive community, this is an easily answered question, but for those who want their games to be casual, it is not. If every player at a 4-person table has both a Mana Crypt and a Soul Ring, there is a roughly 70% chance that at least one player will be able to have access to 4 mana on turn 2. If there is a 70% chance that an event will happen, it doesn't feel like the cards are adding to the variance that makes casual Commander fun for most people. For many Commander players, this card is effectively banned in their playgroup without ever having been directly stated as such. For most people, the price tag is simply too high, and they actually like it that way, because it means they never have to have a hard conversation about what kind of games they want. To most people, the Crypt is a menace and they would rather it never show up in their games. The astute among you may have noticed that nothing I have said so far relates to proxies in the slightest. That is because, logically speaking, there is no difference between a proxy and a real Magic card. If the effect of you putting the card in your deck is to warp your meta into something that people no longer enjoy, it doesn't matter how much you spent to do it. If you would be fine with someone who was wealthy stomping you in the face, but would object to it if it was being done with a deck with proxies, then you don't actually care about fostering good game balance. You are just either taking the cowardly way out and rolling the dice that you never have to stand up for your convictions, or possibly just invested in gatekeeping, whether or not you realize it. I am a proxy artist. I could easily have a copy of Mana Crypt in all of my decks, but I don't. I run the card in only 3 of my nearly 20 decks, and they're the ones who most badly need the advantage. If you cannot handle the responsibility of having the option to play cards that will make your games less fun, but choosing not to, then you may need to re-examine what format you are playing. So, are there cards you shouldn't proxy? I might be about to surprise you. because the answer to this question is yes. Proxy Commander is about enabling play, to play reserveless splashes that we don't normally have access to run mana bases that don't need a degree in tapland statistics to correctly sequence, or in my case, to add new visual flares to cards we already play. My personal rule is to never proxy a card that limits other people's ability to play Magic. Stacks, land destruction, and so on are already massively feel-bad cards that will draw ire. Don't compound that issue by proxying them. Remember that proxying is a social action. Be aware of how some people are wary of it on principle. Be considerate of the feelings of the other players in your games. Now, on a lighter note, the hallway we are walking down is not the first alternate art for Crypt I have ever made. The first was actually a card based on the My Little Pony trading card game. In it, the protagonist walks down the halls of the crypt and sees a dark reflection of herself. This card does not change the person playing it. It simply reveals what was always there from the beginning, proxy or not. Now, when we talk about cards that are hated on power level alone, there is a second card people bring up that I have not mentioned. You will have to wait for November for that, I'm afraid. I'm going to be making a regular thing out of this, so be sure to hit the subscribe button for more. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me, and thank you to my girlfriend Awkward Marina for making the music that you've been listening to in the background. See you next time.